My name's Dale Fish, and I'm the Director of Development and Construction for Pacific Landing.
We'll start with a little bit of background. Where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Windsor, Ontario, and lived there till I was 20 years old, and then I decided to move west back in 1976.
What are some of your hobbies and interests?
My main hobby is golf, but I like water sports. I've been a diver, and like baseball, and yeah, that's about it. Oh, hiking and canoeing.
Yeah.
Yep.
How did you get into construction?
I kind of come by it honestly. My dad owned a sheet metal eavesdropping company, and I started working with him when I was 9 years old. And then when I left, after I left Windsor when I was 20, I originally moved to Calgary, and I became a framer. And the rest is kind of history. From there, I went on to becoming an assistant superintendent, and then a superintendent, and got hooked up with a hotel chain that allowed me to get involved with other phases of construction, which was construction management and the design.
So that's the hotel business would be where you met Randy Royer?
As a matter of fact, it is. Randy hired me to initially build the Banff Rocky Mountain Resort. And that's where him and I first met, and we were both 29 years old.
Yeah. Your partnership goes back a ways, eh?
It does go back a way, yeah, quite a ways. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite projects that you've worked on or built in the past?
Well, probably the most prominent one would be the Grand Hotel that's located in Kelowna, British Columbia. It's by far the largest, but I've done many hotels from Ottawa through Kitchener, a lot of them in Ontario, in British Columbia, that sort of thing. I probably, one of the ones that do stand out would be the villas that I built in Cabo in Mexico. That was one that was quite a big learning experience for me. Had to understand the culture before I could actually start building there. So yeah, that's one that does stand out.
Cool. What about Pacific Landing? Can you tell us a little bit about the project here?
Well, I got involved with Pacific Landing about 3 years ago now. Just about exactly 3 years ago, when Randy Royer contacted me, and we went and had lunch, and he told me that he had another piece of property that was located on Vancouver Island, and that he had another dream, like he did when we did the Grand Hotel, of turning this into a really interesting property that would be kind of a village, give everybody kind of a village feel. And because I was involved with him with the Grand and on many hotels, we've probably developed and built, or I was involved with anyway, at least 19 of those hotels. He felt that he wanted me to come on board and spearhead the development and the construction. So yeah, we formed a partnership, and that's how it all happened.
Wonderful. So specifically in the processes of building this project, what's the process of building a project? What goes into building a building?
Well, the very first thing is actually to try to decide on what kind of a design you want for a building, and then from that you have to produce a budget. And refine a budget that makes sense, so that you can then go to the financial institutions and get funding for the construction. From that point, it's getting all of the permits in place, the development, the development agreement with the city. It's working with the city, making sure that the building permit is in place, a footing foundation permit is in place, and then going out and tendering the complete project with all of the trades and getting them all under contract, providing a schedule, and then trying to get everybody to work to that schedule so that you can finish it on time.
What are some of the major challenges you faced with this project so far?
The challenges here are actually quite considerable. We're building in an area of the world that has the highest earthquake loading zones. And then on top of that, we have some specific issues where we have an aquifer that runs underneath us, a lot of groundwater, and we're building on sand. So all of those issues create more of a concern when you're building. And we've, with our consultants and our engineers, we came up with a way of actually mitigating those issues to where, with these buildings, for instance, these 3 buildings, it's sitting on top of a parkade, which in turn is sitting on top of a 1.5 meter rock mat. And that rock mat is interwoven with geogrid mesh. So it all moves at once. If there was to be an earthquake, the whole thing would move at once. It wouldn't liquefy. So you wouldn't get liquefaction. And of course, if you got that, then the buildings would sink. So this is preventing all of that. And on top of it, we have an issue of water migration through this property, which is unique just to this area. And so on top of the rock mat, inside the rock mat, we installed 8-inch diameter pipes that are perforated, in which we collect all of the groundwater that flows through, and we collect it and at the extreme east end of the property into a manhole, and then that's gravity fed into an area where we've created some spawning channels for the trout and the salmon to come up and spawn in. So that's all part of this dream of creating a village with walkways and areas to enjoy.
Well, that ties in really nicely to the next question. What are some steps that Pacific Landing has taken in the way of environmental and also energy efficiency?
Oh, that's a long question. I'll try to answer the first one. We engaged on the environmental issue. We engaged the top environmentalist here in British Columbia, and that would be Patrick Lucy with Aquatech, or Aquatext, I should say. And he also is a consultant to many of the municipalities in the area. And he's worked with us actually to come up with an idea to create walkways throughout the overall project, so that when we're done, you literally will be able to walk from the entranceway all the way through the property and across the stream beds without harming them or without walking in them, so that we're working with him so that we're being as environmentally friendly as we can. What you have to understand is we have a creek that runs all the way through the property called Bee Creek, and it's under the Federal Fisheries Act, which means that we have fish that actually comes up into this stream and spawn. And we can't develop within 15 meters either side of the banks of this stream. And so we've had to develop the property and all of the phases to be within that criteria. On top of that, when we realigned the roads, we agreed to not only build to the phase boundary line but we actually moved that boundary line in to account for the root systems of the trees that are actually in the SPIA. So the SPIA being a technical term used of the area of which you can't build in. So what we did is we found where all of the root systems were, and even though our boundary line said that we could build within that, what we did is we moved our boundary lines out so that we're not encroaching on those root systems, and therefore we won't be hurting those trees that are going to be able to remain.
Okay.
As far as the other part of the question, I'm sorry.
Energy efficiency.
On the energy efficiency, was we had to meet certain criteria with Colwood to be as green as possible, and we've done that in so much as each individual unit has its own hot water on demand, which is literally as efficient as you can get. No electricity goes out, no gas goes out until actually it's called upon. So there's no waste as far as that's concerned. We've installed energy efficient windows, and we've also installed solar panels on top of the third building, which will contribute to the power requirements we're going to need for all of the common areas in phase one.
That's wonderful. What are some of the unique features of Pacific Landing?
Well, the unique feature is that I think once you start walking around this site, it is so unique because we're right on the lagoon, and I would have to say in phase one, 65% of all of the condo units here have some type of a water view. When we're going into phase two, I would have to say that probably 75 to 80% of all of the condos will have a water view, and going into phase three, almost 90% or 95% of those condominiums will have a view of the lagoon and the ocean. I don't think that there's anywhere else in all of southern Victoria that will have the walkways built in to this site, where you're going to be able to walk throughout all of the buildings. We have amenities that are going to be situated in all three phases of the residential portion, so that the people are going to be able to intermingle with each other, so that you're not just staying in one portion of the property, and you're going to be able to go out, walk the property, walk on the beach, use the yoga studio, or walk over to phase three eventually and use the pool, or if you have guests here, you're going to be able to take them up to the observation deck in phase two, and everybody can look over the whole ocean and the lagoon and Victoria. So in that respect, it's very unique. On top of that, we border right on the lands of Royal Roads property, which is just about a section, 650 or 640 acres of land. And it's got all kinds of trails all the way through it that the local people here use all of the time, and which the people here that are going to be purchasing will be able to utilize as well.
What is your favorite part of Pacific Landing?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's easy to say the construction aspect because that's what I do. But getting involved with Randy again, after being him and I being apart from each other for approximately 10 years, has been very interesting. Becoming a partner on this project, working closely with Randy and my other partner, Ray Parks, or our other partner, I should say, Ray Parks. we've worked together to try to put together a company that will go on past this project and past the 6 phases. We discussed this company growing and becoming a company where we could involve our own kids. And to date, each one of us as partners have brought in our own children to work in one aspect or another of the overall project. The team that's been put together to date is, in my opinion, is working really well. The sales and marketing team, after a couple of stumbles with sales and marketing, we tapped into a group of young people with a lot of energy, a lot of great ideas, and it's really taken off and produced a lot of sales. And going forward into phase 2, we've already got sales and we haven't even broken ground yet. So it's got a lot. It says a lot to the group that's upstairs actually doing the sales and marketing. And from the construction side, I have both of my partner's sons that work with me. I've been training them now for the last year and a half, and they've really stepped up, and I'm quite proud of them. I don't know if I want to say that into a blog where they're going to be able to hear it, but yeah, I am.
Perfect. Well, it'll be our secret. So just to wrap it up, we'll go with a construction update. Where are we in construction of phase 1 currently?
Right now, we're in the final phases of the construction. Drywall is basically all complete in all 3 buildings, and so we're just doing the final finishing in the Dunsmuir. So by the end of this month, the Dunsmuir should be pretty much complete, where we can just about lock the doors. The Hatley will be about another 3 weeks to get to that spot, and then the Breton, we're looking to have everything ready for occupancy by the end of August. At that time, we have to go through all of our inspections with all of our consultants, and it's about a 1 or 2 week period where we have to do all of the testing for the life safety, do the inspections with all the consultants, like I said, and then finally do a final inspection with the fire department and with the city, and take care of all of their concerns, which I'm hoping to be able to do in the first week to 10 days of September. Once that's done, then they'll provide us with an occupancy and everybody can move in. Yeah.
And then next is phase 2 and off to the rest of the project. Okay?
Yeah, interestingly enough, with phase 2, we've already submitted for a development permit. Our drawings are far enough along for that. The design in phase 2, in my opinion, is one of the nicest designs for a building that I've seen in quite a long time. On top of that, we've already submitted for the development permit with the city, and our consultants should be ready with drawings by the 15th of August, the middle of August, so that we can submit for a building permit. But what I want to do ahead of time on next week is I want to submit for a footing and foundation permit. And if I can do that, then I'd like to get busy starting the excavation and the forming here going into next month, which would give us a bit of a jump on the wet weather that's coming. And if I could get that and get the raft slab in and the drainage, that would go a long ways in our ability to actually construct through the winter.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much.
No problem. What you as well you should know is that we yesterday day before yesterday the partners met and we had a discussion with regards to phase 3, and it's very, very preliminary, but from the looks of the preliminary sketches that I've seen, I think those 2 buildings in phase 3 will be spectacular.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.